If we all stood up, that wouldn't be enough. We must build cross-sector alliance with K-12, pre-K-12 teachers, with healthcare workers, with logistics workers, with immigrant workers. That's how we're going to build the movement we need to push back on fascism. And so today we have the most amazing lineup of speakers that are going to help you figure out how to organize cross-sector alliances, think through what this compact means, put this compact in historical kind of significance, and then talk through how we're going to fight back. It's an amazing group, and we'll introduce them as we go, but I'm just going to now pass it over to Chenjai Kumanika, my friend, colleague, and leader. Chenjai?
What's going on? Thank you, Todd. And what's up, y'all? Thank you so much for joining us on this call. I'm actually feeling energized right now, and I want to give everybody permission to feel energized, even though these are really hard times. You know, Todd, thank you for your leadership. Mia, we have Randi Weingarten here. We got an amazing lineup. So I just want to say that, and I want to shout out people who are on this call, because I know the people on this call, y'all are fighting in your own ways. You're fighting on your campuses. You're fighting in your K through 12 schools, moments of courage that probably sometimes people don't even see, but that matter, because each one of those acts of courage that you're doing, each day you show up and don't get demoralized and push and write and send an email and move a chair, all those things matter. And I just want to shout that out because I know y'all are doing the work. And one other thing I want to say is that, these folks are trying to roll back progress that is made. Let's be clear. As we try to transform our institutions and try to move education to be what it can be, that chance for everybody to, have a shot in this world, it's like that's actually was on the move and was working. And that's why this pushback has happened. So we're not going to let them do that. And with that, I don't want to delay anymore, but I'm really excited. Thank you. And yeah, let's bring on our first speaker.
Wonderful. Gwen, can you just mute Ellen for us as we move forward? All right. So it's my great pleasure to introduce our first speaker, the president of the American Federation of Teachers, Randi Weingarten. And I just want to say AFT is a 1.8 million person union, the fastest growing union in the country. It represents pre-K-12 teachers, healthcare workers, public sector workers, and importantly for all of us, higher ed workers. And it's been on the front line of this fight against fascism. And Randi is not only an amazing leader of AFT, she's also an author. And I just got my book, which I'm trying to show you all, but I can't. There it is. Why Fascists Fear Teachers. And I'll just flag that the book is critical in this moment because it tells the stories of how we fight back as educators. And so with that, I'm so happy to pass it to you, Randi.
Thank you, Todd. And look, in both a teaching and a higher ed teaching, as a 11th and 12th grade social studies teacher, I would never in a million years have thought that I would have written a book, and a book that at this moment was the warning about what we saw starting to happen. But I think we now see in the last several weeks what this administration is very much intending on doing. And I just would say that the antidote to all that is a lot of what happens in our classrooms and campuses. What fascists want, and we see this, is they fear knowledge, and they fear pluralism, and they fear arc towards justice, and they fear community. And when you're talking about students and faculty and alumni, you're talking about on a campus, you're talking about community. You're talking about an engine. Any campus is an engine, not only of democracy, but an engine of the cohesion of a society that wants to find the promise of America, the real promise and potential of America. And so it's not a surprise to any of us that the Trump administration has tried many ways now to stifle, to censor the alchemy of university, the alchemy, the texture of what happens in colleges, what the fight back that students have always had a right to do in any setting that they've had in the 249 years that we have had this country. And I don't want to lift up the founders as, great on every way, because they were not. But one of the through line that they understood was speech was essential to freedom. And so they started with weaponizing anti-Semitism. They started cutting all sorts of cancer research and other research. And when all of these started failing, particularly after the Harvard case, then they started with this loyalty oath, this Faustian bargain, this McCarthyism in 2025. And Todd is, and as the union that is honored for AAUP to be our affiliate, and for so many of our members on campuses and universities all throughout the country, we do see what works to fight this kind of suppression, oppression, and repression is people standing up. Students, faculty, alumni, community, and standing up together to create a big tent. And that is what we are trying to do. And the AFT will do. We understand our assignment at this moment. And that is to be courageous, and that is to be supportive, and that is to be out there not only with a warning, but with what can be. And people want college and university life, and they understand the importance of academic freedom, the importance of it to innovation, the importance of it to an economic engine. So everything that the Trump administration is doing is actually going to hurt the country and bring the country back, not forward. And that's their intent. So nobody's going to protect us or save us but ourselves, which is why November 7th is so important, but why the organizing that has been done in Brown and in MIT and in UP and in UP and in USC, and the organizing that's being done at UT right now, Austin, and it's being done in Dartmouth right now. Because of all of that, the Trump administration has now said that this loyalty oath is going for everyone, not just these schools. And so November 7th takes on an even bigger, more important dimension. But what has happened now because of students, faculty, alumni, and communities, including the labor community, is that this is the first time institutions, look at the law firms, look at corporations. This is the first time that institutions other than labor did not capitulate first. People stood up and said no, knowing full well the consequences. And that's because of all of you and the organizing we all do together. So one day longer, one day stronger. And when we fight, we win. But what we're fighting for is the future of our students, of our country, the promise of America, the future to be able to have a country that is better tomorrow than today. And that requires the support of our universities. AFT is here with you every step of the way. I'm honored to be with all of you.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. I just get so charged up hearing it. And thank you, Randy. And thank you to all the AFT members for your leadership. We know that when we partner together like that, when we got AFT on our side, there's no way these people can ignore us. And you see what's happening. It's powerful. So thank you. I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Now,
and sorry,
2 days
I have
ago,
to run, everybody. We
Yeah,
have a
no,
strike
go,
going
go.
on, so I have to go back to it. So
Can I
sorry.
just
We
mention that? Sorry, Chandra, but I just want to flag that 30,000 nurses in Oregon at Kaiser Permanente are on strike. That's why Randy's out in Oregon and let's lift up our nurses, and they're going to win this. Thank you,
Absolutely,
Joy.
yes. Those nurses are fighting and winning, and they are also part of, so many nurses are part of our education sector and part of our education institutions, but they are leading the way. So yes, absolutely. Thank you, Randy.
Thank you.
Um, so 2 days ago, we heard that Brown had rejected these horrific compacts, and that was, a real shot in the arm for our movement. And as Randy was saying, and as Todd has been saying, it was also the result. I mean, it's a result of some courage on the part of their leadership. So we want to encourage that direction, but it was also a part of organizing on the part of the faculty, making it clear what we won't accept. And on that note, we're really excited to have our next speaker. I want to introduce Michael P. Steinberg. He's the Barnaby Conrad and Mary Critchfield Keeney Professor of History and a Professor of Music and German Studies at Brown University. And he's president of Brown's AAUP. Michael, welcome. And we're so excited about Brown. Let us know what you have to say.
Well, thank you, and thank you, all of you. I'm really totally delighted to be here at this moment that I really hope is a significant watershed, a moment of real transition. I love the fact that you guys have called this the loyalty oath or the loyalty oath problem, because that's exactly what it is. And the loyalty oath, for historians like me, is something that was invented by fascism, by Italian fascism in 1931. And in a way, Italy never recovered from it. So we need to resist it and not be in the position of a long-term recovery from a terrible decision. And, I have to say that until Wednesday afternoon, we at Brown were really nervous that a terrible decision could be made that would be damaging to the country and would do irrevocable reputation damage to Brown. So I'm really happy. I know I speak for an enormous majority in the community in expressing real relief in pride in the administration, and especially in gratitude and pride for the incredible activism that we saw from so many different groups. It could easily have gone in another direction because I think, as you all know, Brown signed an agreement with the federal government at the very end of July. Most of us, certainly all the faculty that I know, were totally blindsided by this. This was, in the kind of dead middle of the summer. There was really no deliberation that any of us participated in. There was a lot of opposition. It reignited the AAUP chapter at Brown, which is only 4 years old. So our membership now has really grown. And there were a lot of statements. We had one, it's on our website. We had a bunch of letters. But we didn't really have the feeling that the administration was listening to us. So since academic freedom and governance are the two historic, prime values of the AAUP, we really got started in kind of re-articulating those for the present moment. And so the momentum that did have a lot to do with the decision that was just made on Wednesday, really was the result of a coalition of basically every campus group you can think of. The students were absolutely amazing. The students were so cheerful, very serious, but also cheerful and witty and fast, designing, signs, meeting with all sorts of technologies that I was just learning, while they were being introduced to me. It was really fantastic and wonderful to work with them. We have an alumni group called Stand Up Brown that submitted over 2,000 signatures to the president's office earlier this week. We had a group of a totally ad hoc group of 39 law professors, Brown alumni law professors all around the country that submitted a letter to the administration about the unconstitutionality of this loyalty oath. And we had staff who are facing their own problems, their own budget issues, their own cuts, who really stepped forward with all of us. And so the result is something that I think is really special and that comes in time for Family Weekend, which is happening right now, and the meeting of the Board of Trustees, the corporation, as we call them, next week. I know there's some disagreement. I have not heard any faculty member explicitly endorse this compact. But since there is a well-known divide and conquer strategy being implemented here, I think there's an attitude among many that the scientists, the medical school, biomed, public health, are particularly vulnerable. That was the argument that I think put the wrong decision on the agreement in July kind of over the top because of people losing major funding right away. So we have a lot of work to do with our scientists. I think there'll be a very long-term reorientation of university funding across the country. I think this will take generations to correct. In a way, it's unfortunate because the post-World War II compact between higher education and the government was a very enlightened compact. It may have had a Cold War context that was in some ways dubious, but the idea that the public spheres and the public and private spheres would be in this kind of a knowledge alliance was a very good one. And it's a shame to see that sacrificed. So I hope that that will turn around. But if there has to be a major reorientation, with the exception of another problem we've seen, and that's donor bullying, we've certainly seen enough of that. So there are all sorts of traps here in the public sector and in the private sector, but I think we have to be aware of all this. And at this moment at Brown, I have to say that we feel like we've won a battle, but the war is just beginning. There's a lot of work where we have to continue. Our chapter membership has been growing dramatically in the last few weeks. There are new members every day. So I'm delighted that the AAUP is seems like such a good avenue in addition to all of the other alliances. And the one point of possible optimism that I'd like to mention, and this is really a question, and I'd be very eager to hear other people's views on this. It has to do with the extension of this compact horror from the 9 universities that were very strategically chosen, but very different campuses. Kind of progressive private campuses like Brown, more conservative private campuses like Vanderbilt and Dartmouth, then the public sector with Texas being assumed to be the most red state of the public campuses. So there's a real divide and conquer strategy going on here. But my hope is that the expansion to every higher education institution in the country is a sign that the thing is failing. That is a sign that the administration is in a way trying to blur the screen and to mix my metaphors, to add a lot of water to this poison because they have a sense that it isn't working. I don't know if that's right, but I really, really hope that's the case. So I'm happy to hear from all the others, and thanks so much for including me.
Thank you so much, Michael, and thanks for your work. And Mia is going to talk a little bit about how we want to fight globally against this compact. And I think you're absolutely right. The Trump administration is way out over their skis on this, and they're losing on this, and which is why they opened it up. But I don't know if you all saw, but there's a fiery viral video out there of the Brown rally last week, and a speaker just kicking butt. And so I'm so happy to have Caitlin Carpenter here with us, who you might have seen on your screen. Caitlin is an undergraduate at Brown and an organizer with Brown Rise Up and Sunrise Brown, and works with campuses across the country as part of the Campus Climate Network, and also brings forth the alliance of students, faculty, staff, alumni, and that's how we win. So I'm going to pass it to you, Caitlin. It's so honored to have you here.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so excited to be here. And this moment is so incredibly powerful. This Zoom call is so incredibly powerful. And everything that we are moving towards is so incredibly important in this moment. So yeah, 2.5 weeks ago was a crazy day. I was personally sitting in the basement of my university sciences library. I was trying to write a discussion post when I received word that this compact had been proposed not only to Brown, but to 8 other peer institutions across the country, which you were just referring to. And honestly, like my heart dropped to the floor. I've been involved with student movements since I've come to Brown, and had been involved prior to this moment 2.5 weeks ago in a lot of conversations about what would happen in a case like this. Like what happens when Trump continues to come for our campuses, and what is our responsibility as students and as members of our campus communities to respond. Because we've known, right, since the moment that he was elected, since before he was elected, that he would want to come for our curricula, that he would want to come for our academic freedom, and that most importantly, he would want to come for our communities. And also, as Professor Steinberg mentioned when he was speaking, Trump had already knocked on our door, right? Our university administration had quietly signed this deal with Trump in July, and yet he still felt that he needed to come back for more. And so right now, we have organized a student movement on Brown's campus, but then also in conjunction with the 8 other campuses, and now in conjunction with campuses across the country to fight back and to ask ourselves the question of how can we not only fight back, but how can we build something better than the status quo so that this doesn't happen again, right? Going back to that moment, pretty soon after the news dropped, I was on a Zoom call with, or actually a Signal call, with organizers across Brown's campus, figuring out what we should do, how we should respond. And within 24 hours of the compact dropping, we had a social media presence. We were putting up information on social media and in flyer form around our campus about the compact deal so that students would know what was in it. We were reaching out to our organizing peers, thanks to existing organizing networks and just personal friends across the country, across these other 8 institutions. And we were importantly recruiting a team, an even bigger team than we had already been having in these initial conversations about what to do this year, to really build a strong base and have a strong force telling our university administration to not only not sign this compact, but to not negotiate at all, right? Because negotiation, as we saw in July, is giving in to a fascist administration, right? And is giving them power. And then soon after that, we were in contact with faculty members, with graduate students, with alumni, and coordinating a mass email petition, creating even more visual presence around our campus, and crucially putting together this rally, which you're just mentioning the video is from, this past Thursday, in which we had almost 200 people, around 200 people turning out, many of them from the AAUP. We had undergrads there, we had grads there, we had faculty members there, we had staff members there, and we had our alumni there as well. It was really special. And together, those forces also delivered a joint petition to our university administrators. And we showed that the Brown University community stood and continues to stand united against this compact and against any amount of federal overreach into our university. We also knew, and we said this last Thursday, that if one school accepted this deal, if one school accepts this deal right now, right, as this is being expanded across the country, it exponentially increases the pressure on other schools to say yes to it. At the same time, and this is what we've seen in the past week, thank God, and thanks to the organizing of folks on this call and folks not on this call, if one school says no, then it opens the door, and it has opened the door for other universities to follow. And we want to continue that momentum because this is far from over. As I've stated before, right, we are trying to build a long-term organizing base at Brown, and we are trying to build a long-term organizing base across the country to resist authoritarianism. And we are standing united, even though we are celebrating victory in this moment. We are standing united with our peer institutions across the country, and we are committed to a long-term student movement against authoritarianism. Yeah, Brown rose up, but Brown Rise Up, the organization, the student movement, has only just begun. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Wow. Thank you so much, Caitlin. I saw that video and I was like, whoa, look at, I was like, look at Brown go. And I love the way that you're describing getting into what it actually takes to organize. I mean, this is powerful. And I want to let you know that you're going to hear more about that. We're going to give you some specific resources at the end from our executive director, Mia McIver. But Caitlin, we really appreciate that. And by the way, I also want to shout out one of our other coalition partners, Debt Collective. Debt Collective has been with us in this fight for, what we really, our vision for higher education, right? Not just to fighting to defend, but what we want to build. So I want to say that. Now, one of the great things about working in this kind of work is that you get to work with people that you really respect. You get to work with your heroes. You know what I'm saying? I'm calling people up, and it's kind of like, it's almost like the higher ed labor, the education labor democracy Avengers, except I don't know if the Avengers are Democratic, but we'll leave that alone. And one of those people, One of the key insights, by the way, for how fascist McCarthyism was defeated comes from, our colleague Ellen Schrecker. And she said that you're going to hear Ellen later, but Ellen said that it was when the campus started to really link with other parts of society, the broader social justice movements. That's when we really gained the power and some of the things shifted. And so one of the people leading that fight right now is my friend Jesse Hagopian. I've been seeing back in 2020, back before 2020, I started, seeing high school teachers, people all across, they were coming to me with Jesse's work about Black Lives Matter and education. So when I called Jesse didn't hesitate. So just very quickly, Jesse Hagopian has taught in the public schools for over 20 years, serves on the Black Lives Matter at School Steering Committee, organizes for the Zinn Education Project, founded the Ethnic Studies course at Seattle's Garfield High School. He's an editor for Rethinking Schools magazine, co-editor of Black Lives Matter at School, Teaching for Black Lives. His new book, Teaching Truth, editor of More Than a Score, and he's working with Haymarket, who has been a partner with us on this. So shout out to Haymarket. So Jesse is going to help us understand, how this fight is linked to some of our other fights across for democracy and justice. Thanks, Jesse.
Appreciate you, Chandrai. It is an honor to be among those who still understand that silence in the face of injustice is a form of violence. And we are gathering, as you well know, at a very dangerous hour when those in power, they're not just rewriting history, they're trying to outlaw honesty itself. And the question before us is not a small one. Will that fragile, stubborn thing that we call the truth be allowed to enter our classrooms, or will it be rounded up and deported like a human being on the street facing an ICE agent? That's what we're facing right now. And I want to put the stakes of this struggle in context by sharing the story of a teacher in Idaho named Sarah Inama. She taught sixth grade, a world civilizations class, and she's hung a small sign above her classroom door that read, quote, "Everyone is welcome here." And it had 10 raised hands with different skin tones. Just a simple declaration of humanity. And her school district ordered her to take that sign down, calling it not content neutral. And she complied at first, fearing her job, but then that silence haunted her. One of her students asked her, "Does that mean we're not all welcome?" And she put that sign right back up in her classroom, right? And, refusing the lie that silence is neutral should be an inspiration to us all. And in that small act of defiance, she really posed a question to all of us. Will we let that sign stay down? Or in our classrooms, in our campuses, in our unions, in our streets, will we raise a new sign finally in this country that says, without apology, without exception, everyone is welcome here? Can we teach that? Can we believe that? Can we fight for that? Sarah's act of courage revealed something enormous. It revealed that the attack on truth always begins in the classroom. They practiced on her, and now they want to enforce it on all the rest of us. And they want to bring this to a national scale. The Trump administration is attempting the same kind of control through what it calls this loyalty oath compacts, right? And under these agreements, universities receiving federal funds would have to pledge allegiance, not to scientific integrity, not to academic freedom, but to state-imposed ideology, right? It's just McCarthyism reborn, replacing scholarship with political obedience and demanding that every institution of learning just take a knee and bow before power, right? And this is really how fascism grows. Not first through the soldiers in the streets, right? First, it was in our classrooms. First, it was in the silence in our schools. And then it moves out to occupying our cities, right? And as I write in Teach Truth, the powerful prefer that we police ourselves. Yes, they will send troops into our cities. They'll do that anytime they need to, but they would rather we learn in school to police ourselves, to accept our position uh, at the bottom, to train kids to accept a position in a low-wage job without any power or real democracy. That's what they want to turn the schools into. And so that's why they invest in the media and in schools. Noam Chomsky wrote in Manufacturing Consent about how they use the media to do that. But we also know how they try to use the schools to do the same thing. But I just want to end by saying there's another lineage. There's another lineage besides that of fascism and McCarthyism, and that's the lineage of resistance, the lineage of the Black freedom struggle, the lineage of solidarity and struggle. And honest education has always scared those, but we have to go back to my enslaved ancestors, right? Who risked their lives when literacy was banned for Black people in this country by creating pit schools and teaching themselves to read and write and forge traveling passes so they could escape. We have to go back and celebrate our ancestors. You know, after the Civil War, during Reconstruction, Black people built the public schools in this country. In the North, there were common schools, but how public can we call those when they were segregated? In the South, there were no public schools. It was Black people who knew there was no emancipation without education who built those schools, and the Ku Klux Klan burned down over 600 Black schools in that time. And some of our communities rebuilt those schools 2-3 times, right? During the Civil Rights Movement, we built freedom schools to train people how to register to vote, how to organize people into the struggle. Right? The Klan attacked those schools, but we continued. That's the lineage that we stand in. And tonight we celebrate the courage of the 4 colleges that have already rejected Trump's loyalty oath, because we know their refusal is more than a policy decision. It's a declaration that the truth is sacred, that knowledge cannot be coerced, and that education will refuse to kneel to power. Okay? So I just want to say that those of us in the Teach Truth movement at the Zinn Education Project, we have a vision for a movement that includes parents and caregivers and educators at every level, solidarity between K-12 educators and professors in higher education, that join together and refuse to back down, because we know that they can achieve fascism without controlling the classroom. But we know that they can't control the classroom unless we step aside. And I'm not going to step aside. I'm going to link arms with all of you. I hope you will join me in that and let it be known that the classroom is our front line. And the oath that I will take today is not the loyalty oath Trump wants us to take. The oath that I will take is not to a president or to a party. It's to my students. It's to one another. It's to our ancestors who laid the basis to fight for the truth today. I will gladly take that oath to be in the struggle with all of you.
Oh my, thank you so much, Jesse. They can't enforce fascism without taking our classrooms away from us. That is so powerful, and that's where we stand here. We are going to stop them from doing that. We so appreciate your leadership and courage. And it brings up one thing. You've been in the public schools for 20 years. And I just want to, before we go to the next speaker, just remind us as higher ed workers and students that about 15 years ago, K-12 faced the same sort of crisis. Waiting for Superman was released, and they aimed to charterize and privatize our K-12 system, undermine our public teachers and our unions. And teachers and high school students fought back, and their communities fought back. And they became a new political force in this society, a new political force, right? Strikes in Chicago, strikes in LA. the Red State Rebellion from West Virginia to Arizona, and they changed the dialogue. And so us in higher ed, undergrads, grad workers, faculty, postdoc staff, our alumni, the communities where we work, we have to take a page from our K-12 brothers, sisters, non-binary, and build and become a new political force in society to protect higher education, but also to protect our democracy. And in doing that, we need to build coalitions. And we have built some amazing coalitions, right? We have Labor for Higher Ed, which I should shout out, which includes AAUP and AFT, but also Higher Ed Labor United, NEA, SEIU. It includes UAW, United Electrical Workers, AFSCME, and CWA. But then also we've been building an amazing alliance with students. And we heard from Caitlin and Sunrise and Students Rise Up. And now we have the amazing, who I've been so lucky to get to begin working with recently, Kaden Ouimet. I might have butchered your last name, Kaden, I'm sorry. But Caden's with Frontline for Freedom and Public Citizen. He's also part of Students Rise Up, which is a key ally in the fight in front of us. I'm so happy to have you, Kaden. Take it away.
Todd, thank you so much. To everyone, hi, I'm Kaden Ouimet, he, him pronouns. I'm a student organizer, as Todd mentioned, with Public Citizen and co-coordinating the Frontline for Freedom network of student and movement partners. And we're on the Students Rise Up steering committee and super proud to stand in solidarity with our faculty and campus worker allies. We know that the White House Campus Compact is an attack straight from the authoritarian playbook, and it's meant to target our freedom to organize in college, our critical funding, and marginalized communities on our campuses. But student movements have been critical to winning against authoritarians throughout history and around the globe. We know this because we saw it in Serbia in the early 2000s against Milosevic with the student Otpor movement. We know it because we saw it with the Nonviolent Penguin Rebellion that was led by students in Chile against Pinochet. We know it from the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee and the anti-war movements of the 60s and 70s. We know it because students very recently organized for justice in Palestine across college campuses in America. And so we're even seeing it very recently with Madagascar and Gen Z protests that were led there. And so that's why we're joining together with student movement partners, including Sunrise, the Campus Climate Network, the Youth Action Fund, Students for a Democratic Society, and with faculty and higher ed labor partners, including the AAUP, HELU, Higher Education Labor United, on Project Rise Up. Our plan is to mobilize thousands of students, staff, and faculty for a national day of action on November 7th to demand our campuses do not comply with Trump and build to May Day 2026 and hopefully organize millions of students, faculty, and staff beyond and leading into May Day 2028. We're out to win affordability, security, and freedom for our campuses, but we can't win without faculty and campus workers. And when we win against autocracy on campus, it's because we've risen in solidarity with each other. I just got off the phone with some UMich students before hopping on this call, and they mentioned how they would feel so much more confident going into November 7th if they knew faculty were behind them. And it's such, I'm really proud to always be able to say that, the AAUP is behind us, HELU is behind us on this. And so a couple different actions that students are taking, for example, at UMD, they're planning a teach-in at American University in Washington, D.C. They're planning a mass rally with speakers. Students at Stanford were planning a walkout, but some others are planning just solidarity bandanas or t-shirts as part of the Students Rise Up action on November 7th. Our aim is to, resist these administrations that are complying with the compact and with the Trump administration, move the ones in between that have been giving mixed signals or haven't made up their minds yet, and stand with college campuses that stand up for our students and faculty rights. And so our asks for faculty are, to connect with students and teams and groups that are a part of Project Rise Up ahead of November 7th. There will be some CTAs in the chat for that. And hopefully we can continue collaborating towards long-term organizing, strategic escalation, building those sustainable mutual aid structures on campus to keep each other safe. And then hopefully, I hope to see you all at No Kings tomorrow. There will be Know Your Rights cards that are sent out. And on the back side of the cards will be a QR code that will take you to a resource page. And so if you're a student or faculty member, you can scan that and there will be some call to action links to get plugged in to the November 7th National Day of Action and beyond. So thank you all so much.
Thank you so much, Caden. So excited to be working with you. And I just want to underline, and Mia's going to say more about it. 11/7. If you haven't heard about November 7th yet, you need to mark your calendar today. We want a movement and we want an action. We want something on every campus in this country. We'll still be in the fight over these compacts, but we'll also be charting out the future of this fight, which Kaden already outlined. College for all, free public higher ed, right? An end to contingency on our campuses, work with dignity, an end to student debt. These are the things we're going to be fighting for in the long term, and we're going to be doing it, students, faculty, staff, alumni communities. And please forgive me. I'm running over to the University of Pennsylvania right now because I live in Philly to do their on-campus teaching. So I am going to pass it to Chandra. He's going to pick up for the rest of this event. But I'm so glad and honored to be with you all. And at Penn, we'll be shouting out this webinar. So thank you all. And remember, Penn also rejected the compact along with MIT, Brown, and USC. And we expect the other 5 schools to follow suit. So I'll see you all soon. Chandra, all yours.
Thank you, Todd, and bring that energy over to Penn. Let them know we proud of what they're doing over there, and let the administration know they on notice. Keep doing the right thing. All right. Next up, we got a few other amazing speakers left, and I want to remind you that towards the end, our executive director Mia is going to offer some great resources we have for what we can do, how we can join this. But coming up, we have Ellen Schrecker, my colleague, and just, someone I've learned so much from. Ellen Schrecker is an American professor emerita at American history at Yeshiva University. She's received so many awards, including the Academic Freedom Fellowship at the Tamament here at New York University. And she's a longtime leader in AAUP. But what I also want to say is just what I love about Ellen is when it comes to really understanding fascism, right? Like people talk about, fascism and throw the term around in ways that are sloppy. Ellen really dials it in, and she's dialed it in, and she's inspired me because she's done like audiobooks. She really breaks it down. And I think that the way that she's shown up for this moment is crucial to help people really do it in the serious way. So Ellen, what do we need to know about these compacts and this fight and what it means? Let's unmute Ellen real quick. Make sure Ellen is unmuted. Ellen, one moment. We need to make sure that you're unmuted. Gwen, can we unmute Ellen?
Ellen, you've got to unmute yourself. I allowed it, but now
Okay.
There we go.
Hi. What that shows you is that I am a little old lady with a big mouth, and I'm here to talk to you. And because I'm a little old lady, I'm not so good with the technology. So bear with me. Maybe I'll bring a grandchild on to help with the tech. But I've been around for a while. In fact, lived through McCarthyism, lost my 6th grade teacher to McCarthyism. And because I've written so much about McCarthyism in higher ed, I'm actually often asked a lot. Like today, I've been asked 3 times today to talk about how the current situation compares to that of the 1950s. And because I'm a trained historian, here's my latest book. Can you see it? No, of course not. It's called The Right to Learn, Resisting the Right-Wing Attack on Academic Freedom. It's an edited collection I worked on with Jennifer Ruth and Valerie Johnson, and we just won a prize, a book prize for it. So we're kind of psyched about maybe people are going to read it even. I am a trained historian, and I pay attention to nuance and empirical evidence. And when I'm asked about these comparisons between Trump and McCarthyism, I sort of usually say it depends on the context. No more, no longer, no more nuance. It's worse. What's happening today is much, much worse. McCarthyism only focused on the past political activities of individual professors, at least 100 of whom were fired and blacklisted because they refused to cooperate with the anti-communist witch hunt. But, and this is crucial, they were never asked about their teaching and research. Today, the attack on higher education is much broader than that. It touches everything that colleges and universities do. That Trump disastrous compact for academic excellence in higher education, that's what it's called, essentially demands that universities commit suicide, that they adjust their operations to accord with the MAGA oligarchy's authoritarian agenda. Now, as during the McCarthy era, the forces of ignorance are seeking to impose a right-wing political test for employment. Now, what makes today's situation so much worse than McCarthyism is two things. One, that today's demands are coming at a moment when the academic community is much weaker than it was in the 1950s, and the demands are much broader than they were then. McCarthyism took place during what historians call the golden age of higher education. Universities had considerable prestige and popularity. They were expanding enormously as state legislatures and the federal government literally threw money at them. Now, that situation changed dramatically during the 1960s when powerful social movements roiled the nation's campuses, demanding democratic change within and beyond the universities, and provoking a ferocious right-wing backlash that for more than 40 years has gradually undermined the academy's authority as the main source of knowledge within American society. We've fallen behind. And beginning with Ronald Reagan, who made his career initially attacking the University of California at Berkeley, never forget that, and continuing to this day, ambitious and opportunistic right-wing politicians and pundits have been attacking student protesters and their so-called woke institutions. State legislatures immediately abandoned their previously unstinting financial support for public colleges and universities. And to make matters worse, a worldwide economic crisis during the 1970s further eroded the academic community's previous financial stability. In response to that new austerity, academic administrators focused on their bottom lines, understandable. They restructured their institutions, depriving once admired faculty members of a say in the governance of their own institutions. They also raised tuitions and relied much more heavily on wealthy donors and the federal government. And of course, they cut costs, most notably by hollowing out the faculty, reducing it from one consisting of full-time tenured and tenure-track professors to one where about 75%, somewhere between 70 and 75% of all instruction is in the hands of poorly paid, part-time, and temporary employees who have no economic security and lack the academic freedom that might enable them to fight back against the authoritarian onslaught. What is amazing today, however, and I want to emphasize this, is that unlike and silence that suffused almost every campus during the 1950s, there is now resistance. This time, this very day, we are pushing back, and we are standing together, and we are saying, enough already. Hands off our universities. And we're being heard. Just this morning, the University of Southern California joined MIT, Penn, and Brown in defending their students and faculty members and rejecting the bully-in-chief's so-called demand for a suicidal compact. So, if we stick together, maintain solidarity, key word solidarity, and resist the forces of ignorance, we will save American higher education. We will banish fear from our campuses so that once again we can learn, we can teach, and we can demand the more equitable system of higher education that this, albeit flawed, democratic polity requires. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you, Ellen. Ellen is an inspiration on every level. And, I encourage everybody to study her work. It shows you that on the one hand, it's real. Like, this is worse than fascism. You heard it from a whole fascism scholar. But also, when you read her work, you see that people have fought through these kinds of conditions before. And that's really important for us to remember. So thank you, Ellen. Next up, we have another one of my heroes. We have, professor of law at UC Irvine and our general counsel at the AAUP. And let me just tell you, I just have to take a minute to say, if you really want to understand, one branch of this attack is at education. There's another branch that's coming with technology. These algorithms that want to plunge us into doom holes and gigify and casualize the whole economy and all these, and take our data and do all kinds of horrors with it. Vina's work in that area is alone a force of power and resistance. Has come in and become Trump's worst nightmare, working with Aaron, our legal team and other partners at the Knight Institute and everywhere else to just unleash tremendous resistance and show that although we're going to win this fight through organizing, when legal power and organizing work together, watch out. So Vina, let us know, what's coming. What do we need to be paying attention to, from your perspective in this fight?
That's a very, very generous introduction. Thank you, Chenjer. I needed something after following Ellen Schrecker, my hero. And unlike Ellen, I'm just a little middle-aged lady. I'm going to try and share my screen. I still might not be as technologically competent as I should be, but I'm going to try and share my screen and just show you some things about this compact that I think are super important. Sorry. Okay, here we go. Okay. So I think I want to start by pointing out that unlike many of the things that Donald Trump and his administration has done over the past, feels like 10 years, 10 months, this compact has received widespread bipartisan condemnation, including in the pages of the Wall Street Journal's op-ed section, where I rarely find my own opinions reflected. And that is primarily because it actually violates core parts of the Constitution, core parts of what we all consider, regardless of our place on the political spectrum, core parts of what we consider to be central to freedom in this country. So critically, and I'll take you through kind of 2 of the 10 commitments that it lays out in a second, but critically, the government as a principle cannot use the carrot or stick of federal benefits to coerce colleges and universities into waiving their own free speech rights or the rights of faculty, students, and staff to further their own ideological aims. And this is a long-held core principle of the First Amendment. Secondly, the government cannot require universities to exclude from their admissions and hiring decisions considerations of political views, sexual orientation, or gender identity. And finally, I just want to point out that the compact is so vague that it raises real due process problems and will necessarily chill speech and expression, and thus violates the First Amendment in ways that I will talk about shortly. So let me I don't know how many of you have actually looked at this odious document, but I'm going to highlight 2 of the 10 odious commitments. This first commitment that I'm going to highlight is actually commitment 2. And what it says is signatories to the compact commit themselves to fostering a a vibrant marketplace of ideas on campus, which requires an intellectually open campus environment where no single ideology is dominant. And this means transforming or abolishing institutional units that, quote, purposefully punish, belittle, and even spark violence against conservative ideas. So what the government is asking for here violates what's called the unconstitutional conditions doctrine. It is a central principle of modern First Amendment law that the government cannot dictate the correct balance of views that are represented. The question of whether something is balanced or imbalanced, open or distorted, is a political judgment that members of the democratic political community make for themselves, that we make through principles of shared governance, and that is guided by our own values. Financial support. So universities cannot be forced to admit students or hire faculty who they credibly fear will undermine the expressive values that guide the institution. And they cannot be prevented from admitting students or hiring faculty when doing so furthers their institutional values. Universities and colleges not only have the right to decide what political views they want on campus, but also they likely have the right to decide whether or not they wish to consider sexual orientation or gender identity when deciding who will become a member of the institution. When these decisions reflect in really a meaningful way the organization's own moral and political values. So again, both of these commitments in the compact, among many other, violate core constitutional conditions. But even leaving these aside, the third problem is that the compact really creates serious problems with regard to both due process by requiring universities to make commitments that are articulated in such vague language that their meaning cannot be ascertained by the face of the document itself, and also that the vagueness is so will result in chilled speech. So consider, for example, the first commitment that I articulated to you, namely the idea that universities have to maintain this intellectually open campus environment. Well, what does it mean to say that campuses have to host a broad spectrum of ideological viewpoints with no single ideology dominant? Does that mean that faculty in a physics department can't all agree on the string theory of the universe? Or does it mean that the university has to have robust populations of registered Republicans and Democrats in order to be in compliance? Nothing in this compact provides any explanation. It just states that the Department of Justice will have the power to determine whether the signatory to the compact has violated its terms, either negligently or willfully. And a similar vagueness plagues the requirement that universities abolish departments that belittle conservative ideas. What does this mean? Does this require institutions to close law schools that hire professors who criticize originalism or who criticize the conservative Supreme Court? Again, we don't know. So by granting the DOJ sole authority to determine when a university or college violates this compact, it exposes the signatories to unpredictable legal and financial risks, violating core tenets of due process. The lack of clarity that I showed you, the lack of clarity that is endemic to this bizarrely drafted document, is also likely to chill speech because universities and colleges will interpret the commitments in very broad terms, even more broadly perhaps than the DOJ, because they want to avoid any risk of being found in non-compliance. This will fundamentally transform these institutions that are central to maintaining democracy, to maintaining speech, to maintaining the vibrancy of innovation and research and science and debate and discussion, debating good ideas, bad ideas. It will decimate that possibility. These problems, both I think of as being moral and political, but also deeply, deeply constitutional and legal. These problems make it perilous for any university to sign on to the compact's terms. And it's why, again, you've seen bipartisan rejection of the compact. But it also makes it very likely that much of this compact is completely unlawful. Today, the president has asked the 5 remaining universities who have not yet rejected the compact to come to the White House so that he can further manipulate them. And I think that we, as the people who make up the universities at these 5 places, really have to continue to fight to hold our trustees, to hold our administrators to account, not just to us, to our students, to our staff, to democracy, but also to the Constitution. And I'll end there.
Wow, that's serious. I didn't know that Trump had called these folks in and ramping up the pressure. But thank you, Vina, for breaking down what I like the name you gave it, this odious document. It's terrible. So thank you for breaking that down. It's really important that people understand exactly what this is. All right, folks, our last speaker, thank you for hanging in there, folks. Our last speaker is our incredible, powerful executive director of AAUP, Mia McIver. She also taught at the University of California for 15 years and has just been an absolute leader in higher education organizing in California and nationwide. And she's just, infused our organization with so much power. Mia, break down how we can prepare and how we can deepen this organizing and just take this fight to the next level, please.
Thanks, Chandrai. This has been such an exciting call today. It's been an exciting week as we have been building momentum in the Loyalty Oath Compact Fight Back. I just want to say what an honor it is to organize with all of our speakers today. Chandrai, Jesse, Kaden, Caitlin, Ellen, Michael, Vina. You are amazing. The 500 students, staff, faculty, and alumni who are here for this teach-in today are absolutely amazing. And we are all organizing together. We're moving in the same direction. We're building power for higher ed workers and students. And as this week has shown, we are winning. The fight is not over, but I'm here to share some ideas for future plans and tools and resources for carrying those plans out. So first of all, what I want to encourage everyone here to do, if you have not done this already, is to join with your coworkers, with students, with alumni, with community members near your local campus. To be in touch with your college or university governing boards and presidents to tell them preemptively now to reject the compact. The Trump administration, May Mailman, Mark Rowan, all the usual suspects have offered the compact terms to higher education nationwide, to colleges and universities everywhere. There are boards and presidents undoubtedly now who are very tempted, who are having conversations behind closed doors about whether they should agree. They will not tell you that they are considering that. You have to go to them and mount a community defense with all campus stakeholders to say, absolutely, we will not accept any loyalty oath compact. So I'm going to share examples, samples, templates, talking points for you to put those together. Let's see, we also want to ask you to organize with us on November 7th. Friday, November 7th is a national coordinated day of action across higher education, led by students who are, like Caitlin and like Kaden, rebuilding the student movement in this country in an incredibly impressive way. And students on Friday, November 7th, are standing up for college affordability, standing up for freedom to learn, freedom to teach, and standing up for the safety of every campus community member. And we are standing with them. For November 7th, we want to support you in organizing and action. Our partner, Higher Education Labor United, is conducting some upcoming trainings to help you figure out what needs to get done in order to gather together with your coworkers, with students, with alumni, and with other campus stakeholders on November 7th. So the link for that is in the chat. We've also got an issue survey for you to use to connect with your coworkers and to help identify what is, the most widely held or deeply felt issue for you to lift up on November 7th, right? Maybe it's not the loyalty oath compact. Maybe it's a different issue. Maybe it's the closure of DEI programs on your campus. Maybe it is vulnerability of student, staff, and faculty to ICE raids on your campus or in your local campus community. You should organize around the issues that matter to you and your coworkers, and we have an issue survey to help you do that. Here is a list of all kinds of sources drawn from the Loyalty Oath Compact throughout the country. And I'm very happy to say that there are a bunch of folks, almost 100 people in this document right now, looking at all this material. And we've got sign-on statements, right? If you have an alumni group, an AAUP chapter, an AFT local, a student organization, please sign on to the organizational sign-on statement. You can also sign on to an individual sign-on statement opposing the compact. I think that individual sign-on statement has more than 10,000 signatories on it right now, and you can add your name to be part of the movement. We also have a campus connection form. So you know who else is organizing towards the same goals on your campus. And let me drop the link to that into the chat here. We will help you make those connections and make sure that you are in touch with other members of your campus community with whom you can build together. So in that tool and resources doc, we have faculty senate resolution samples. If you're a faculty member with a faculty senate, you can draft and propose and move a similar resolution. There are petition samples that you can model your own petition on. Please don't worry about plagiarism in this context. You feel free to lift the language directly from these samples. They are there for you to use. We also have examples of an email campaign going to campus board members and administrators. We also have a really impressive coalition press release from the Iowa Higher Education Coalition, again, bringing together multiple stakeholders to make a united stand in solidarity against the loyalty oath compacts. And then there are a number of recent articles, op-eds, analyses of the compacts that are there for you to draw talking points from. So it has been just an enormous pleasure and privilege to be with you all here today. We will be in touch because we are building this movement together. We're moving forward together. The fight is not over, and it won't be over on November 7th either. Throughout this academic year, throughout the next 3 years, we are building for a higher education system that is a truly public good, that offers labor justice, that offers educational equity, that offers universal accessibility. That's what we stand for, and that's what we're fighting for.
All right. Thank you, Mia. And I just want to re-shout out. I want to thank all of our speakers and everybody. And I just want to shout out and say, hopefully, you can connect to the No Kings tomorrow. We encourage you. I know we'll have a lot of our people out there. And there's lots of different orgs, and we'll be out there representing this fight as well as all the other fights for democracy. So yes, and register for your November 7th action. Thank you, Mia, for giving us the concrete steps. Reach out to us if you have questions. That's it. Are we good? All right, y'all. Thank you. Really appreciate it. And thanks everyone for attending and staying. All right, y'all.